You're watching HCAM television. Hello, and welcome to HCAM television and the Hopkinton Hangout Hour. We're live every weekday from 2 to 3, as well as other times during the week, keeping you connected to community during this time of pandemic. And today, along with my co-host, Mike Tarosian. Hi, Mike. We're happy to welcome our library director and chief librarian, Heather Backman. Hi, Heather. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me back.
Oh, you know what? I love having you back. And all of your staff, your librarians, they're so awesome to talk to. Because, you're a librarian because you love books and you love stories and you just love community. And that really shows in the work that you do. So we love to talk to you guys.
I'm glad it shines through. We got a great team and they are really all committed to the community and, here to help support it however we can.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. Now let's get to that. But before we do, I always like to ask, how are you doing? Is everybody safe and well where you are?
Yep, we're doing just fine. My husband and I are holed up and taking walks and not otherwise going out much. So we're healthy, we're good, keeping in good spirits.
That's good. That's good. Are you how are you finding this time of self-isolating and not going out like we used to? What things do you and your husband do to stay sane?
Well, we're playing a lot of board games with friends over the internet. We've discovered a bunch of sites. I say I'm actually an introvert, believe it or not, working in a people profession. So from the beginning, this was saying the thing that's going around on Twitter, my gosh, I've been preparing for this all my life. I'm doing all right, just, having more time to just kind of chill. Obviously, still working hard and putting in a lot of time, doing my job and there's always the household stuff, but you take the commute out of your day even, and it opens up some space to really just kind of breathe and be. So yeah.
Yes,
we're
I'm reading some hysterical tweets from introverts saying I've been practicing for this my whole life. Yeah. So, how now? What does it look like now? I know the library is closed, and I know that you're keeping your staff busy. How is it from your perspective working with your staff, and how are you? How often are you meeting, and what are you doing, and all that kind of stuff?
It's been an adjustment. We have a lot of people who are in the job because they love people and they want to work with people. And everyone's saying we miss the patrons. So, the town had everything the town does was through Google, which is great because Google has great collaboration software. So we're using Google Docs and diving in and just brainstorming in there. Everybody can see it, everybody can comment in it. And we have a daily check-in actually via video, which has been great just to keep us all a little bit on the same page. When you're not in the same space, you lose that kind of situational awareness that you just get of what other people are up to and what's going on in their lives that you have when you're just, in a space together. So getting together every day, in the morning for an hour on video, just talk, it doesn't only let us problem solve work things that are going on and talk through that kind of thing, but it just lets us, stay in touch with each other in a more human sense. And I think people appreciate that, and it gives me a chance to kind of, as questions come up, because there's always questions, and especially now as we're looking towards what's going to happen with reopening, it gives us a chance to talk through some of those things and for me to share with the staff what I'm hearing, further up the town level, and to take feedback back that's going to influence how I plan, for what we're going to do going forward.
Mm-hmm.
I think I got about 1/3 of your question there when I answered. It's
No,
a long one.
That's great. Actually, and as you were talking, it makes me think there's really kind of 3 levels here that may have content for you to respond to. And the first level is there are things that can't happen at the library because the library is closed. There are things that can be modified to still happen, such as speakers that are appearing on Zoom through the library now. And then there's also the third thing, which I'm really interested in, is what are you thinking about how the library looks, what things may change, what may be different when you do get back. Now, just as a quick example, this Zoom meeting stuff that we're doing the TV show about, even when we're back in the studio, there will be some iteration of this because it's a great way for us to emphasize community. It's kind of like how our process has evolved over that way. So I'm interested in you kind of talking about those three different categories, if you don't mind.
Sure. So, what can happen now? I think the obvious piece is, the physical stuff that is people I think most often think of when they go to the library. It can't happen, and people cannot get physical materials from us. Our computers aren't available. Our spaces aren't available, and that's huge. That's been, I think a big challenge for us, not only in terms of what do we do and what can we do for the community, but psychologically, again, we're here to serve, and all of a sudden our model of how we can serve is gone. So it's been a real readjustment trying to figure out what we can do, which takes us to part two. And I'm so proud of the staff because we have found a ton of things we can do. We are offering programming now. We've been doing story time online from the get-go. Our teen librarian has started doing these YA lit segments. That's Anne, and you had Anne and Danielle, I know, last week, I think, and they do a little back and forth and do a video once or twice a week. We're still running one of our book groups, our Chat and Chew, which is really well suited to this kind of thing because it was never read the same book. It was always everybody kind of shows up and just talks about what they are reading. And if anybody's interested, the next iteration of that is Tuesday, Wednesday, May 20th at 12:30. But we've got all sorts of stuff going on program-wise, and it's all on our programs calendar on our website. We've had to make technological adjustments to make it possible, but it's happening, which has been wonderful. We figured out a way to issue temporary cards to people remotely so that if somebody doesn't have a library card and they want to get access to some of our, downloadable books or magazines, our databases, Mango languages, we can give them a number so that they can do that. We've been doing all sorts of interactive stuff through Facebook, and if people haven't seen, we launched a group called Backyard Birds, Beasts, and Blossoms, where people can do what they're seeing in their backyard. Is that?
Sorry, that was me. I was just fixing something on the social computer.
Oh, that's totally fine. So, and we're still looking at, providing resources and information for the community the same way we always have. So, we do have a chat librarian service. People can still get in touch with us directly. They can call us, they can email us. We've got information about COVID and things to do on our website. Staff have really gone to town with a Pinterest site so that we're still putting out recommended book lists, and everything on the site links to something that's available electronically. So you can go through and get it right away. So, I'm really proud of how people have kind of refocused to see how we can adapt what we would do in a physical setting as much as possible to be electronic. And going forward, I think we're going to have to continue to think that way for some time. We are planning summer reading right now, and we're planning a summer reading program that is probably going to be largely virtual. We've just, contracted to get some software, so there's a website where people can participate and do activities, and we're thinking about events and activities we can do that aren't the kind of big 100-person, gatherings where kids are packed to the walls in the room, but things that are smaller, things that people can come and pick up and take home and do on their own, things that are drop-in. And we're thinking that way kind of for a lot of our programming going forward. As libraries are talking about reopening, we're talking the same way that the governor did just the other day. It's going to be a phased process of gradually sort of reducing restrictions. So, you know, our plan is very much still in the works, but I think it's likely that we'll start with reinstituting curbside pickup, and then maybe there'll be a period of time where we can let a couple people in the building or a few people in the building at a time to just pick up books, and then we may gradually kind of expand access in the building and increase the number of people that go in. Programming will take a while to come back, because gatherings will take a while to be okay again. But I think that the models we've got for online programming now are at least something that can work for a while. And quite possibly, I think there are things we're going to take away from this that we'll just move forward with. I've got staff working on a form where you can say, this is what I want to read, and we'll email you back a list of suggested books. That's a great service if we have the staff to run it, you know, even when we're fully open again. So lots going on, and it's still, as with many things, you know, in flux, in process. But I think, you know, we're going to develop some things here that that are going to carry forward.
Okay, good.
So I was going to ask you, Heather, which you answered my question about easing into the curbside pickup and so forth. My question now is going to be, do you feel that with you having these online books available, do you feel that some of these younger kids will say, well, I like this better than the real book in my hand? Do you feel that it could go that direction?
You know, that's an interesting question, and it's one that's been around, I think, since ebooks started to be a thing. And I don't think so, for a couple of reasons. I think ebooks have their place, and there are lots of people who love ebooks. And what studies have found that I'm aware of are that across the most avid readers, the people who really love to read, they don't tend to be, most of them, one format or another format. They're reading across everything. They're picking up a hardcover, and they're downloading an ebook, and they're reading a magazine because they're just readers. There was a study that was done, and this was a long time ago. This was when I was in grad school, so it may have been superseded, but I really remember it, where they found actually that students, you know, high school students, preferred physical textbooks to electronic textbooks. You know, there's something about physically paging through a book that helps our brains process information better and kind of store it. And I know that there's a lot of parents who are concerned about screen time, and you know, we're a partner at the library with the Turning Life On initiative, and we've certainly heard from parents, you know, during this situation where their kids are out of reading material, and we say we've got ebooks, and they say, well, the kids are on the screen enough. We actually added a whole page to our website of offline activities to do to address that. So certainly, I think there's going to be a lot of people who use them, and there's a lot of people, I think, who are getting turned on to what you can do with an ebook right now, that didn't at all, you know, think that they would be an ebook reader before. But print's not going anywhere. It's not.
No, it's not.
No.
It's
not.
not.
We'll still have a little bit nice to
My
cuddle
wife
up to.
really loves to have physical books. She's a real underliner. She likes to notate and underline and keep track that way. But I will say, for Mother's Day this year, I bought her some books on our Kindle device. And the reason I did that was because I like to buy her books because she likes books. If I was going to buy her books, I would have bought her a couple of books. But using the e-reader, I was able to go much broader and much wider and get more content to see if maybe she might like something different, you know, and a couple different genres, a couple different categories. So I thought that was like a good use of that for somebody who actually usually prefers real books.
Yeah.
I like the feel of the real book as well, just like a magazine, just like a newspaper. I do like to browse through a newspaper if I could ever find one again. But I think where I find my Kindle that comes in handy is you're traveling. Instead of carrying those books with you, you just got the one device, and yeah, you know, you drop it in the sand or you drop it, you know, on the, you know, so you get it out with you. You're not worried about the book getting damaged, whereas the Kindle's, you know, in good shape and all your books are safe. So yeah, I understand. Just like they said that the libraries are going away. Again, hello, everybody's expanded their libraries, and as we just did here, and you know, I can tell you, I bet right now you're probably saying, "Oh, I wish I had a little more space." I'm guessing. I mean, there's got to be some things that you do there that you're gonna say, God, I wish I had a little bit more room for this.
Oh, of course. You always wish you had more room. I apologize. You're a little bit quiet, so I was just, I didn't quite catch 100%. But yeah, we have a beautiful, big new library, and we love it, and we appreciate the space we have. But yeah, we got in there and immediately realized, hey, if we had even more space, we could use 3 more study rooms. We could use a little more storage. You could always use more. That's the whole, construction and budgeting and granting process is it's a balance against, everything that you want and what the community can afford. But we afforded of something that's very, very beautiful. And yet the funny thing is now here we are and we aren't using it. The point was it was a community gathering place, and who knows when we're going to be able to gather that way again soon.
I agree.
But we're here and ready when we can.
I know. And I really think that, in my opinion, when I was a kid, the library was just a place that held books. And I'd go in there. I remember I'd go down the stairs into the basement because that's where the kids' books were. And all the adult books were upstairs. And libraries have evolved themselves in a fantastic way, so that it's not only the conference rooms, but it's also the programming that the library runs. It's no longer the library is sitting there and you come and get reference materials or books to read for pleasure. It's like there are events, there are activities that are going on in there that really turn it into a nexus for community in a way that libraries traditionally hadn't been decades ago.
Absolutely. And it's, that's a key role too to be thinking about now. I've been starting to talk about, and we saw this in, 2008, 2009, libraries are engines of economic recovery. And, we're going into a recession, and that means we all know it in this field. We're going to be busier than ever. And we're going to be busy helping people get back on their feet. We're going to be that space still for people who can't have an internet connection at home, have given up on that because they're saving money. We're going to be that source for job hunting advice and resources. And, hopefully, one of the things I'd like to do is be a resource for the businesses in town, as they're looking to get back, if they need information that they know they can come to us and we can, dig up what they need. We've got trained researchers, we'd love to be used to find answers to those kinds of questions for people. And that's a role that I think people notice it a lot when we're in a recession, that the libraries are playing it, but I think people forget it in between. We're going to be, I think it's really wonderful that Hopkinton has invested in its library. And I think it's going to continue to support its library because I think that's going to rebound to the benefit of Hopkinton in terms of getting back up out of what we're going into now economically as well as socially, and just in terms of people living great, fulfilling lives beyond the money question. So yeah.
It's so interesting that you mentioned that, because beyond the money question is, I think, really, really important now. So many people are just having so much trouble with everything that's going on with their professional life, with their income. And, right now, money is a huge concern. And at the same time, people have more time than they have had before, where, they're able to do things. And I think that thinking about our time on this planet and what we do with it is something that is really good to do at any point, but I'm taking more walks than I've ever taken before. And I think that what you had just said, thinking beyond money, is a really valuable part of us growing as people.
Absolutely. And I'm a big liberal arts person, so I'm hugely into the value of reading and learning and exploring just for your own self-benefit, because it gives you a richer life. Back to the whole job thing, outside of the issue where people have lost their jobs and will be looking for new ones, I kind of am thinking we're going to see a lot of career changers in the next 5-10 years, just from people who sat through this whole thing and went, what am I doing with my life? This isn't what I want to, I think that the pandemic is really putting a lot of things into perspective for a lot of people. And, but yeah, our fiction collection is still in many ways a core element of what we do. And stories are so important, both in terms of how we make sense of our world and how we learn about our world and how we develop empathy ourselves as human beings for other human beings. They're great as escapism when people need to get away. And we've got a building full of stories, we've got a building full of interesting nonfiction for people who don't want to do the made up route, but they want to learn just because it's interesting. And I'm expecting we're going to see a lot of our gardening stuff and our crafting stuff and our cooking stuff start to fly out the door when we open again too. Everybody's picking up a new hobby. I know of a knitting store, a yarn store, I think in Maynard, where they're doing a giveaway outside the door. They can have people donate knitting needles and a ball of yarn, and they just leave it there for people to come and pick it up. They said that like 60 or 70 people have come by so far to grab a learn to knit kit, for free, because what else are they going to do with their time, I guess. So yeah, it's as much as what we're going through right now is scary and difficult and stressful, and there's a lot of, I think, fear and legitimately fear and concern out there. I also am really interested to see what happens societally coming out of this, as everybody has had that kind of space that you talked about to take a little more time and reflect and do some more things that are kind of just for them potentially, and get back out and connect with nature more. We have such a sort of work focused culture, and people are now being forced to take more time away from that maybe than they used to. I get the sense that people's horizons are kind of opening from that. It's going to be interesting.
It is going to be. I'm telling you, librarians are deep people. That's really thoughtful. And I agree. We're in the middle of this, and it's really scary right now. I don't know what's going to happen, but I have faith in America, and I think that this will be a puzzle that they figure out, and it could be a vastly different world when we get back to our world. But I think America is up to the challenge, and I think that at the end of the day, I've read stuff in the past that oftentimes, America seems to be kind of crazy and going one way and going the other way. But at the end of the day, America does the right thing. And I think that it will be. However, our time is growing short. And I was wondering what types of organizations do you follow? Are you involved in? What type of groups, of librarian groups, are there?
Oh, we're very good at organizing things. In case you haven't noticed, there's a lot. There's professional organizations everywhere from the state up to the national level. So I am a member of Massachusetts Library Association, the New England Library Association, and the American Library Association, which all kind of coordinate and provide information resources at their relevant levels. And then there's a bajillion informal ad hoc. Every area of Massachusetts right now, I think every region has some sort of programming meetup or readers advisory meetup where staff just get together once every few months and talk through what they're doing at their libraries, what other people are doing, issues they're coming up against, and they kind of, as an entire profession, we all learn and grow collectively by sharing. And then we've got all kinds of listservs. I'm on several, statewide, regional. There's a CW Mars has several, our consortium. So there's a lot of places to kind of talk. statewide, we also have the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners, which is the state entity that administers funding. So they're the ones who certify us every year that we are eligible for our state aid and then disperse it, and they handle grants. When the federal government gives money to libraries, they do it through the Library Services and Technology Act, I believe, LSTA, which goes to the Institute for Museum and Library Services, which then gives money out to all the states individually and for us. MBLC is what handles that. So I'm most active, I'd say, probably at the New England Library Association level. That's a conference that I really enjoy, and it's a nice balance of the local and the larger, because it's got a lot of Massachusetts folks in it. I have a lot of connections, but it really is regional. So you get a picture of kind of libraries from different states and how they do things. And things do tend to be pretty different across states. So it can be really interesting to hear how different places are set up.
Right. So I actually thought this, but I'm going to tell you this. My mother watches our show, and also she and my father were on the library building committee for their town. So they love libraries. And she
Thank you to them.
Yes. And she commented that she loves your necklace. Very appropriate.
Thank you.
All right. So now we only have a couple minutes left. I'm wondering, you just said a lot of different organizations and groups that you're connected with. And so I'm just kind of curious to know, about how many years do you think it's been that libraries have made a really vast jump from just come in and check out the books or the reference materials into more of a community nexus? But most importantly, is there any talk or buzz about how you guys are thinking about the future?
Yeah, how many years it's been since we made that? I mean, I think it's always been an evolution, and I think that libraries have always been some sort of community center in a way that's not been recognized. I'm not so up on my history of the profession that I'm going to venture a guess on that one, though.
That's fine.
And where are we going? I mean, the talk is, more and more, community hubs, and the language that I've started to hear, which I really like, is libraries as a place and a platform. That we used to be kind of, you came and we had this authoritative collection of resources and it was curated and that was what you came for, but that the space, the physical or virtual location and the way it convenes people is as important now. And the whole platform element is that libraries are now less an authoritative resource and more a support for people in the community to come and pursue their own interests and pursue their own projects and kind of launch. And, the kind of thing like where the Southeast Asian Circle of Hopkinton, they started out, they were meeting in individual members' homes, I guess, and they had a lot of difficulty there because there's a lot of interruptions at home, as we've all discovered in the last couple months. When we opened, they started meeting in our conference room. And, someone from the group told me that, that was so helpful to have a space where they could really focus on meeting. And that it was, within a year or so after that happened that they actually formally launched the nonprofit and did all this stuff. And, they did all the work, but I still feel really, really warm and fuzzy that in a sense that group kind of launched out of a library meeting room. We're a platform in that sense that we're providing a resource that community members come in and get what they need. And from there, do their own amazing stuff, and it's not just so much about us coming in and providing things, it's us providing that space and opportunity. Some of my favorite programming to run is programming where somebody from the community has something that they're really enthusiastic about that they want to share, and then they do, that to me is almost the best stuff because it's so locally relevant. It's a resident, it's a community member, and it's generating that knowledge acquisition and knowledge sharing within the community. It's building those connections. And, that's really what builds strong communities and resilient communities and keeps people together.
Heather, you know what you have? You are a maker space. Now,
yes.
Except you're an intellectual and a community maker space.
We are. In fact, we're going to be a little bit more of a literal maker space. we very recently acquired a 3D printer thanks to the Hopkinton Public Library Foundation. So that's coming. They got it when they did so that we could have a volunteer use it to make PPE for first responders, actually. So that's what it's being used for right now. But it's going to be in the library. But yes, I love it. An intellectual makerspace. That's great.
That's fantastic. Hey, thank you for spending this time with us. It was really interesting to catch up with you and what you're doing.
Thanks for having me back on the show. It's good to see you.
Yes. We'll be talking to you soon, Heather. Take care.
All right, fabulous. Thanks. Bye.
All right, that was great. And now we're going to turn it over to Matt Clark, who, in addition to being our staff here, he is also the HCAM Insider guy. And he's got an update for you. Go ahead, Matt.
Thanks, Jim. Well, coming up tomorrow, we're going to have John Catino on the show. He's going to be talking about 15-minute fixes. And then tomorrow night, we're going to have Terry Malisi back on. She's going to be doing another edition of The Gathering in Quarantine. And then on Thursday, we're going to have Amy Ritterbush on the show as well. So we have a lot coming up this week.
Excellent. Thanks a bunch, Matt. And
No
right now it is time for part 2 of our show. We're going to welcome in Jared Keene from the Metrowest Daily News. He's just getting situated, and we got a number of sports topics to touch upon with Jared. Jared, you just have to unmute your microphone and get your camera going. And the camera, there should be a little camera icon in the bottom left corner of your screen where you could start the video. There you go.
There it is.
Jared, how you doing?
What's up, Tom? How you doing?
Good.
Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, our pleasure. Thanks for coming on.
Definitely.
And it seems like things are finally starting to get a little interesting in the sports world. You had UFC recently have an event. They have another one coming up Wednesday, and you got baseball talking about a proposal to come back this July.
Yep.
So finally, we're starting to see a little something, hopefully some promising signs of things to come.
Hopefully, I mean, who knows? But yeah, I mean, it's certainly promising. I think them having UFC is certainly a start to something. And obviously the proposal with baseball, as long as talks continue to advance with that and kind of keep being positive, and they can kind of get the money sorted. Obviously money is a big issue. Then hopefully we can get something. So,
right.
But it's certainly a start. It's a good start.
So many of the local sports fans, I'm sure, have seen you around at many of the Hillers games. That is one of the teams that you guys cover. But just those that don't know, can you talk about yourself a little bit? How long you've been writing for, and who you're writing for?
Yeah, so I'm Jared. I write for the Metrowest Daily News. I've been doing that since 2008. I started there after I graduated college. A few months after I graduated college. It's been quite the journey. Some ups, some downs, a lot of ups, definitely a lot of ups. And it's exciting. It keeps you on your toes a little bit, and you get to meet different people, different athletes, different coaches, ADs, everything. Parents, all sorts of stuff, and it's a lot of fun. And just being able to kind of tell everybody's stories is kind of the best part, I think. You really kind of, when you really kind of dive into somebody's story and really kind of, kind of get at that, then that's kind of really what it's about. Especially if you can kind of produce a good piece of work, and, then it kind of all pays off in the end. So, yeah.
And you've produced many great pieces of work. And like you said,
Thank you, sir.
My pleasure. I think it's just fun going to the different games, seeing the different teams, and meeting all the different coaches and ADs. I think that's a very fun part of the job.
Absolutely. You kind of get to interact, and you make some new friends along the way, and and it's it's fun.
So with pretty much all the sporting events canceled at the moment, what has your workload been like, and what kind of articles have you been working on lately?
So yeah, I mean, obviously with no games to cover, which is kind of tough in its own right. I like being out there on the scene and kind of getting covering these games and kind of giving these teams the coverage they deserve, and especially when you can go and see a great game, that has a great finish or something. So it's kind of just been. You can kind of pitch your own story. Tommy Castle, our sports editor, has also kind of pitched a few stories to me. Yeah, I recently wrote a story about Kat Higgins from Medway softball, who got in a car accident last year right before their playoff game. Was unable to play in that, but it was just and it was kind of about the accident and her recovery, and then being able to play a little bit of summer league summer softball last year, and and a little bit of the disappointment of her senior season getting canceled. This is going to kind of be her bounce back season and everything. And, she was really looking forward to it. But that was a really fun story to write. I got a lot of good info on that. And I think the story came out really well. I was very pleased with that. So that was definitely a good one. Let's see. I wrote a story a couple months ago about kind of when this was first all going down, about Riley Childs, former Medway basketball standout, and Vanessa Edgehill, sister of Franklin senior Chris Edgehill, who played on they play on the BU women's basketball team together and share a tight bond. And that was kind of a fun story to write too. Actually, about a month ago, though, I actually had an appendectomy. So I had to take a little bit of a time off. I took about a week off, and then, I was also kind of struggling a little bit mentally, and kind of took another week off, kind of on my own personally, just to kind of regroup and all that. So haven't really cranked out as many stories as I would like, but the ones I have, I've certainly really enjoyed doing, and I'm going to kind of full steam ahead now. Obviously, we had our all-star presentations as well. I think those came out really well, and yeah, just kind of move forward now and go from there.
Well, it's great to see you back at work and writing some stories. I always enjoy reading what you write. How you doing with everything? You doing well now?
Yeah, definitely. Feel good, so
Excellent.
Yeah, bit of bit of wildness. Yeah, there about a month ago. Kind of some excitement, not the right kind of excitement, but it is what it is. Just kind of, you get that taken care of and you move forward. And my recovery actually went pretty well. So, yeah, just kind of everything's going well now. And yeah.
Wonderful. Well, that's good to hear. Very good
Thanks,
to hear.
man. Yeah.
So you cover a lot of the Hopkinton games, and of course, we're on HCAM TV in Hopkinton. So, can you recall within the past year any very memorable Hopkinton games that you had the opportunity to cover? I know I'm throwing you in the fire here.
Put me on the spot here. I had the opportunity to cover a wrestling match between Hopkinton and Ashland that was very it was different because it was that kind of had to do with that was set up by kind of Pete Zakili, the Ashland wrestling coach, and him and Tim Nelson, the Hopkinton coach, are good buddies, and that was interesting. So that had to do with cancer and sort of Tom Keene and kind of that kind of stuff. So that was an interesting one. That's certainly a memorable sporting event to cover, and
I thought what was cool about that event, though, is you have two big rivals coming together to raise money for a great.
Absolutely. I thought that was fascinating. I really enjoyed that one. What else? Let's see. Last year in the basketball playoffs, Hopkinton against Wayland boys basketball. Great stuff. Great game. A couple of great games actually that they played. Let's let's see. I saw one of my first like 3/4 court buzzer beaters. That was interesting, by Wayland's Jaden Brewington. That was
Wow.
yeah. I mean, that was that was a great, that was a high intense game, very well played by both teams, and a couple of great coaches, obviously, in Tom Keene and Dennis Doherty from Wayland, kind of having their teams ready to go. So that was great to see in that was the D2 Central playoffs last year.
Right. And then they met
yeah.
this year in the sectional finals.
Yep. Absolutely.
So that was
Absolutely.
that was a tremendous run by Hopkinton this year.
I agree.
Were you at that Grafton game by any chance?
I was not, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think I saw Hopkinton or Wayland in the tournament this year.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know
But
if I don't know if I saw Hopkinton at all, actually, during the season, to be to be honest. I know I saw Wayland a couple of times. But
yeah, it was a great run. So I want to get your take. Legion Baseball was officially canceled, and many teams have tweeted they are looking to perhaps play in an independent type of league. I know Milford and Ashland, they're certainly looking to play some independent ball. Have you heard anything about this? And from what you know, do you think it would even be possible for a Legion team to play in an independent type of league?
Well, first off, I want to say that it's obviously, heartbreaking to a lot of those kids and a lot of those managers that really put a lot of time and dedicate themselves to, the Legion season is a grind. So, I mean, that's obviously difficult in its own right. I first kind of found out about it yesterday when I saw that Jake Obid from Ashland, the manager, had tweeted from the Post 77 baseball account that they were looking to kind of go independent and kind of do something. And I think that's interesting, and I think that's great. If you can kind of get your team on the field in any way, considering what's going on right now in the world and in our country and everything, I'm I fully support that. I think that would be awesome. Just for the kids to kind of get out there, and for Jake, who I know as well, to kind of be able to at least kind of manage his team and stuff and play his role, then, full steam ahead, man. Let it rip.
Absolutely.
Let them do let them hopefully do what they enjoy doing. So,
right. If it's safe to do so, of course. And
absolutely.
If this ends up, they have some obstacles to overcome with being able to do this. Is the Legion program going to allow the team to use their same team name and that type of stuff in an independent league? So these are all things that they're looking into right now. But the vision I get is you could perhaps have a situation where it's based on geography, and you got like Ashland, Milford, and just surrounding towns playing each other. As much as we would prefer to have the regular Legion ball back, I think it would be really interesting if they're able to do something like this.
I couldn't agree more, Tom. I could not agree more. I think that'd be, again, like you said, a lot of obstacles to still overcome, but if they can get the ball rolling with this, I think that'd be really interesting. I'd be kind of curious to see how that went down, and how that kind of goes. So
right. I could just imagine it must be so tough for those kids that wanted to get out there in their spring season, and especially for the baseball players that are hoping to at least have some Legion ball. They just want to get out there and play. So
right, yeah, just let them get out there and play, man. Kind of do what they can to kind of get out there and play, and let them enjoy themselves.
Absolutely. So transitioning to another baseball league, Major League Baseball, they formalized their plan to return to the field, and we'll tell you a little bit about that plan. It's teams agreed Monday on a proposal to send to the Players Union for an 82-game season that would start without fans in early July. The plan would include an expanded playoff field, a designated hitter for all games, even in the National League.
Yep.
And then also to minimize travel, teams would play only against divisional rivals as well as teams in the corresponding geographic division of the opposite league. What's your take on this Major League Baseball proposal?
Obviously it's a little bit different from the norm. I mean, especially obviously having kind of a DH and in all the games, especially in the National League. Obviously, something you don't see often or you don't regularly see. Um, but I think kind of where I stand is, at this point, anything that they can really do to play the game, again, kind of similar with, I'm similar with Legion. I'm all for it. Again, I know it's a little bit different, and to limit the travel, they can only play kind of divisional rivals and stuff. But just let them play. Let them kind of get out there and do what they enjoy.
Right. But I think even with this, there's some obstacles. I think
Absolutely.
are you going to have players coming out and saying they don't feel safe to play?
Right. Right.
They don't want to play. Obviously, I mean, is there going to be pay cuts in the contracts? Are you going to have to renegotiate with some players before you get them to take the field? So these are all things that I think they'll have to overcome. But
and money. I mean, money's an issue as well, man. You got the big market teams, and then you got the smaller market teams that, I know there's they talked about a kind of a revenue split or whatever, but if you get kind of a smaller market team, how are they going to kind of handle that financial stuff in terms of, again, not really being able to have fans and kind of make that money off, the fans and, food and beverage sales and all that. So, certainly financially, like with any sport, I think right now it's certainly going to be an issue. But again, if they can kind of get past some of these issues, let them play.
And yeah, and of course, there's some cities that have banned any kind of event with over 40, 50 people.
Right.
And you got to think between the two teams on the field, the players on the bench, the media that's going to be there. This might not be allowed in some ballparks and in some cities. You might have teams that have to play elsewhere.
Yep. Yeah. But, and I know that's kind of a little bit, that would be a little bit different. But again, I think as long as they can play and they're okay with playing, I think they'll be happy to just play. As simple as that sounds. Just be able to get out there and play, I think would be massive. So.
And we did have a question coming on YouTube for you. So it most likely when sports gets going in any type of scenario, the access to players will probably be pretty limited, for protection. How would how would perhaps not having access to players and coaches at games affect your writing if that becomes the case?
Affect writing?
Yeah, how would it affect your writing? Because I know in a lot of your stories you use quotes from players and quotes from coaches. So how would that scenario change the way you approach the story?
I think that's something you kind of just have to just try to adjust to. I mean, you have to kind of, you got to kind of work with what's given to you. If you don't have that access, you got to try to find ways around it and sort of adjust on the fly a little bit. And I mean, obviously, it's ideal having that access to those coaches and players and everything. But if you don't have that access to some of those coaches or players, you got to kind of work with what you got. A big, part of being a journalist as well is again being able to sort of adjust on the fly. You can be writing a story and have it during a game and have it very kind of sided the way you want it to, and then all of a sudden there's a crazy ending, and then you're trying to scramble and flip your story in 20 minutes on deadline. Which isn't which isn't ideal, but you got to kind of roll with the punches and just kind of work with what's tossed your way. And again, that kind of keeps you on your toes a little bit. So.
Well, I know in a lot of cases too, especially when games are close, coming down to the end, you guys start working on your stories during the game, and you have a lot of it done right up to those final minutes. But all of a sudden, there's a quick turn of events, and you got to revamp that entire story.
Yep, you got a story written about a team that's on their way to a third straight sectional title in dominating fashion, and then all of a sudden in the fourth quarter, you got a team coming back from 15 down, and you're trying to and then you scramble, and then there's a big upset, and You got to kind of flip your story. It's a little bit different for us now because we don't have nightly deadlines. Like we used to have back in the day, where it's like 10:45 sharp, got to have that or something. So it's a little bit different, and I. If I have to write during a game, I will, but I usually at least try to wait until the end if I can. And if I think I have time, just to know what I'm working with, just so I know kind of how then I want to, know what's up, know the final result, and know kind of how I want to sort of craft the story. And I think that gives me a little bit better idea of, again, is being able to write write the story how I want to write it.
Right.
So yeah, again, it's interesting now with kind of the no nightly deadlines, because that sort of gives you a little bit more freedom to work with, especially after games. I still try to get them done that night and send them in, but again, just having that sort of little bit more time is really helpful.
So there's no deadlines whatsoever for games, or do you have to?
Not nightly now. We switched that up last year. So now, like, if I went and covered a game, my deadline would be like, in the afternoon the next day. That's kind of how our paper is operating now. So yeah, we don't have like a nightly deadline, where it's like, okay, all stories have to be in by, again, 10:30 sharp or 11 sharp or something. So
I think that's great, especially with some of these playoff games going so late. I think it's great that they move the deadline to the next day, because you don't have to rush to try to get the
Right.
story done and then go back later and re-edit it when you might have messed something up or mistyped something.
Absolutely.
Now you could take your time with it and really think about it.
I agree. Somehow, yeah, again, it's just because you don't have to rush. If I had to rush, there was times where I could, bang out a really solid 700 words in like 30 minutes, if I was really tight. But that's not ideal. That's really,
Right.
that's there's a lot of stress there, and yeah, just kind of having that little bit more freedom, a little bit more time to kind of really craft your thoughts and, kind of really focus on quality, which is something I'm big on. I don't like producing, not so great pieces of work. So I always try to focus on quality whenever I can. And I think this has kind of allowed me to do that a little bit more.
Right.
Whether it's showed or not, is still slightly up in the air still, but that's something I certainly am a fan of.
Absolutely. Takes a lot of the pressure off.
Absolutely.
So Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski heading over to Tampa.
Yep.
I got to get your take. Why do you think they're heading over to Tampa?
Well, I mean, I think I think for Brady, it was just, sort of just time. I also, I've been reading the last day that, there's a little bit of a strained relationship with Josh McDaniels. But, I'm not one of those people that's like that's gonna bash him for leaving New England. He had a heck of a run in New England. Yeah, got the hat there. Little fresh old school. Yep, old school. But yeah, to kind of for him to just kind of maybe to be able to get a fresh start here and switch things up a bit, and he's got some great weapons to throw to now as well. So
Oh yeah.
Tom Brady to Mike Evans is going to be a heck of a combo.
And Chris Godwin,
Absolutely, who had a fantastic season last year. So
and of course,
yeah,
Gronk.
and then I think Gronk. I think Brady probably played just a big role in bringing Gronk in. It was pretty evident those two were close. During their years on the Patriots, and yeah, I'm happy for both of them. No negative feelings, nothing like that. So just kind of interested to see what they're gonna do, and I think I wish Brady nothing but the best down there. I think. Again, he's going to have a lot of success, and he'll be welcomed by the fans. And
Oh, they should be
Yeah.
pumped down there. And I agree with you. I mean, I don't think anybody should trash Brady. I mean, he won 6 rings here. He was
Yep.
unbelievable for most of his career here. He did so much for the Patriots organization. So, like you, I have nothing but love for him. Certainly wishing the best
Yep.
for Brady and Gronk. And I'll go as far to say I have a new second favorite team, and I'll be watching plenty of Bucks football this year.
So
And,
my family and I actually have we own a place down in Florida, and our place is about about an hour and 15 minutes south of Tampa. So whenever I'm down there, if I'm down there in the fall, I'm certainly I'm going to certainly get my dad and try to get up to a game or two. When I'm
there you
down
go.
there, kind of see what it's like. So
Yeah, let me know when a good time to come is.
yeah. Definitely, man.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I've heard that stadium is really nice. Raymond James Stadium.
Yeah.
One of my good friends had the opportunity to tour. He said it's a very cool place.
I've never actually been inside the stadium, but I've driven by it a bunch of times, and yeah, I'd be thrilled to get the opportunity to go. So hopefully if we have a season this year and the opportunity arises, that I can get a chance to get up there for a game. So,
Right. Absolutely. So obviously Brady's gone and Gronk heading over to Tampa. And I had a feeling that Gronk might end up going to Tampa because he's a Florida guy. He likes the warm weather. And if he's going to come back, what better time to do it than go play with Brady in Tampa? But the Patriots are now in a position where they have to pretty much throw Stidham in there. And it looks like that's the guy they're going with. What's your take on the Patriots this year? I think it's really going to be a transition year for the Patriots. I think they'll be pretty good, but I don't think it'll be the Patriots football that we're used to in the last couple of decades.
I couldn't agree with you more, Tom. From what it seems like, and again, from what I've read, a lot of the stuff from Mike Reese, former Metrowest Daily Newser, that it seems like it's kind of like a 2-year plan sort of thing. So I think they're probably kind of expecting to have a little bit of a transition year. And, I really don't think Patriots fans should have, expectations of a 12-4 season or a 13-3 season or anything like that. And it's pretty evident that Stidham is their guy with the fact that they didn't draft a quarterback, move up to take a quarterback or anything. So, I think that'll be interesting. Obviously Stidham has learned from Brady for a few years now, and we'll kind of see what he can do. But yeah, 9-7, maybe 10-6.
Right. and that's what I'm thinking around there. But I could see it going bad too, because I just don't know what to expect out of Stidham. I mean, the rare glimpse that we got at him during the season last year, well, it didn't go so well. He ended up throwing a pick 6.
I agree.
So it'll be a wait and see thing for sure. But we have just a minute left. So real take, I just want to get your thoughts on The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary. A lot of people are watching it. I think it's very interesting to see kind of the behind the scenes stuff with MJ.
One thing I'll actually say real quick, Tom, is I thought the NFL draft was fascinating this year. Kind of having done that, not like kind of live in person and, checking in on different people's houses and stuff. And also kind of some of the picks, Jerry Jeudy going 16 to the Broncos and CeeDee Lamb going 19 to the Cowboys and all that. But yeah, anyway, back to The Last Dance. I think it's been a fascinating documentary to watch. It's obviously really well done. I've been locked in, as I'm sure a lot of other sports fans have. Jordan is a legend, the best player to ever play the game, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinions. And, you kind of get the perspective on him and kind of a lot of others that were involved, right. Phil Jackson and Jerry Krause and Scottie Pippen. And
so if you're an MJ fan, I highly recommend watching it. Jared, I'm so sorry, but we are out of time. We'll certainly have to have you back because there's going to be many more sports to talk about in the coming days. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us.
Thanks a lot, Tom. I really appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on.
All right. We'll talk again soon.
Indeed, we will. Indeed, we will, sir. Absolutely.
Take care. For
You too,
everybody
buddy.
at HCAM, I'm Tom Nappy. We thank you for watching the Hopkinton Hangout Hour. We will see you again tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. Take care, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day.